Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, simply enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So, welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. This is live stream 1324. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual, just hanging around talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and it's normally skewing very heavily into the role-playing game side of things. Tonight, we are going to talk a little miniatures for a change, a little sprinkle of something different. And of course, I will normally tackle a topic related to our hobby, and tonight brings us another forgotten tabletop role-playing game favorite, this time out, 1980s Top Secrets from TSR. We will get into that after I share the news. Now, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But as long as you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I'll do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Kevin R. Smith. Viper Dave is with us, as is our good friend of the show, the Madman. He is one of our chat moderators. Harvey Chuckles is here, another good friend of the show, Agile Monk. Keith Hool, who retired on a bike. Let's see, who else? Semper Buffo, Witchlight, and I think I think that's everybody. And then we also have Michael Berry and Valimir Cleaver. So welcome, everybody. We are off and rocking. And I'll take a guess, we might have the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D as our other chat moderator. She might be lurking in the shadows this evening. If so, howdy. All right. So, crazy weekend this weekend. I was surprised I was able to get as much done as far as shooting some video. I've got 3 new reviews up, but man, I tell you. Now, if you follow the show, you know that I have a father who is going to turn 90 in July, and had just been trying to do his brakes, his front brakes, wasn't able to pull it off, so he actually had to take it over to a mechanic, which should have been done in the first place. But so I had explained to my dad, I said, hey, don't get mad at me, but these sorts of projects, you can't really take these on anymore. It's like, oh, yeah, I understand. I'm like, you're almost 90 years old. Stuff you could do even 20 years ago. You just got to put it in the rearview mirror. Oh, yeah. So he told me he was having a problem with his steering. Needed to replace what they call it. It's a little $6 part. A coupler, I think it was. So I said, okay, well, we'll look into that. We'll see what's up with that. And then I went and took my mom shopping, took her out to lunch, come back, and my dad has the entire steering column all torn apart on his car. And guess who couldn't put it back together? and still can't. Ay, ay, ay. It's like, I just went and saw my cardiologist yesterday. Won't get into that, but I had mentioned it to her and she's like, oh boy, yeah, she's in the same kind of situation. She's like, yeah, kind of having to parent our parents. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. I was shocked that I actually got stuff done because I was constantly being called in to try to assist with things, and it was, not going anywhere. And then I guess the thing was, couldn't get the column back up, right? So I was able to get it up to it, put these nuts back on. Now, keep in mind, this was like a 2-day thing, right? So this was like, oh my God, actually got it done. Because I kept telling my dad that the way he was approaching it wasn't going to get it done. So I said, here, I'm going to get in there. And I actually was able to do it. A couple hours later, he comes in and he says, yeah, I had to take it back down. Something was wrong. Good Christ. I'm like, I tell you. Anyway, so who knows? Maybe one day his car will be drivable again. I don't know. I don't know if we can even tow the damn thing because it can't steer. I guess you could put it on a flatbed, but you'd have to make sure you got it to a mechanic. I think it would just be a pain in the ass trying to, get it up on a lift if you can't steer. Anyway, DB is with us tonight. Says they are shaken and stirred for top secrets. Very nice. All right, let's jump on into the news because now available in print and PDF is Paranoia, 5 clones from Alpha Complex. And I've got the deets from Modiphius Entertainment. The computer is your friend. You must keep friend computer happy. To do otherwise is treason. Welcome to the miniatures version of the iconic dark humor Paranoid RPG, adapted by the same team as 5 Parsecs from Home and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. Want a game where teammates have each other's backs and work together to accomplish a noble goal? Well, this ain't it. Join a so-called team of troubleshooters, find the trouble, get shot, and complete missions that keep Alpha Complex the safe, efficient utopia its citizens trust. None of them are members of secret societies, and absolutely none of them have mutant powers. They're certainly not going to report each other as traitors or shoot each other in the back with a laser pistol. Hey, get them before they get you. And if you die, don't worry, you have 5 identical clones to take your place and mop up what's left of you. Trust the computer. It never makes mistakes. Procedural solo, co-op, and group play rules and game mastered options are found throughout. This is a fast-moving system emphasizing fun over complexity. You'll find 50 mutant powers that you definitely don't have, 20 pieces of starting equipment, a mission generator, plus 20 scenarios with 7 objective types, as well as secret societies and security clearance rules. Foes include insect troops, vulture squadron warriors, bots, mutant creatures, monsters, and aliens, and of course, your fellow clones. Rules for random hazards, cameras, vending machines, even doors, as well as optional rules for mandatory bonus duties, service groups, and more will be found. You'll also get 10 status effects because you too can be confused, stunned, bleeding, stressed. Hey, I got the stressed one down. Infected, and more, often at the same time. The 176-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $47.99. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so. Pop on over to DriveThruRPG for $20. Sweet. We had talked about this a little while back when this came out in PDF. Now you can get it in hardcover and PDF as well. And of course, to score the PDF with the hardcover, order from Modiphius Entertainment. Let's see. Grouchy Lenny, Danny Gable, Chris Lundgren, all popping on into chat. Chris says they want to thank Jeff, that'd be me, as one of the persons inspired them to restart their own YouTube channel. Hadn't uploaded a video in 4 years, just did it the other day. Nice. And Buddy says, hello. Well, Grouchy Lenny says, no secret society mutant traders here. Ha, of course not. Who would think that? Hey, speaking of making mistakes, Spelling Mistake is with us tonight. Once again, welcome. On our next news piece, currently in friendly local game stores everywhere is the Warhammer The Old World starter set from Cubicle 7 Games. I've got the skinny. Step into the shadows of a fractured empire where danger waits in every forest glade, beneath every crumbling ruin and behind every smiling face. Warhammer The Old World role-playing game starter set is your gateway to daring adventure and grim deeds, plunging you straight into the action with everything you need to begin your journey. You'll find a thrilling starter adventure in this starter set, The Hand That Feeds, set in the bustling yet downtrodden river town of Talagad. What begins as a seemingly simple task soon spirals into mystery and danger, drawing the characters into a tale of intrigue, corruption, and lurking horror. Designed to teach you the rules as you play, the adventure eases new players into the game while throwing them headlong into a fast-paced fight for survival. With maps, tokens, dice, and pre-generated characters, this set has all the tools to bring your tales of grim and glorious adventure to life. The Old World is a place of constant strife. Beastmen stalk the forest while the undead stir in forgotten crypts. Within the Empire, rival claimants jostle for the throne, blind to the gathering storm. And amid it all, you and your companions are unlikely heroes, armed with faith, steel, and a stubborn refusal to kneel before despair. Whether you're rallying allies in the smoke-filled taverns of Talagad, braving the treacherous river Telebec, or facing down horrors from beyond the grave, your choices will decide if you fall to the growing darkness or carve your name into legend. You can jump straight into the action with an adventure that teaches you the rules as you play. You'll discover Talagad, a grimy river port brimming with intrigue and danger, perfect for adventures beyond the starter game. Bring the old world to life with full-color digital maps, tokens, and dice. Everything you need is in one starter set. There are no extra books required. And this is built for all adventurers, whether you're brand new to role-playing or a veteran seeking a fresh challenge. This all-in-one starter set is the perfect way to begin role-playing in the old world. Accessible, thrilling, and richly atmospheric, it contains everything needed for bold beginners to take their first steps and enough depth for veteran players to lose themselves in unforgettable campaigns. Are you ready to stand against the tide? The Old World awaits. The box set with PDFs carries an MSRP of $39.99. If you want to grab just the PDF over at DriveThruRPG, you can do so for $19.99. Of course, once again, if you want to get the PDFs with the box set, order through Cubicle 7 Games. You will get the PDFs immediately or within moments of your purchase. Chris Leonard asks, what is different with this starter set opposed to the one that they had just bought last year? It is a different game. So this is Warhammer The Old World role-playing game. What you purchased is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition. So mechanically, they are two different games. And I do believe the old world is set 300 years before Wifrip. I might be off by a few years here or there, but to my understanding, I think it's 300 years before. So Witchlight says, for some reason, they made a tabletop role-playing game based off the old world war game reboot. So it's 200 years earlier. Okay. Like I said, it wasn't positive. I know it is a prior era in the old world. So I'll tell you why they did this. And if you watched my interview, I think it was Dominic McDowell, because I did 2 interviews at Gen Con with Cubicle 7 Games last year, one with Dominic and the other with my buddy T.S. Lucart. And I'm pretty sure it was Dom who was talking about how most people who know Warhammer Fantasy know the old world. So when they would be exposed to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, there wasn't that carryover. It wasn't like, well, hold on, wait a second. Isn't the Emperor XYZ not this one person here and things like that? So to my understanding, that was why the old world was created, so that there is that carryover from the miniatures game. Now, having said that, we're also supposed to be seeing a 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay sometime this summer. I don't know if it's going to be like a Gen Con release. I don't know if this is going to be, I highly doubt it would be a Kickstarter, because I really don't think Cubicle 7 Games has done Kickstarters for Games Workshop IPs. At least not off the top of my head, I don't recall. But Chris Lundgren asks, which system's easier to run complexity-wise? I've been told that the old world is actually a lighter weight rule system than Wifrip. But Wifrip isn't that difficult. You know where people have problems with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? And you know what? Maybe we'll tackle Wifrip this week. Maybe we'll kind of take a bit of a deep dive. I wish I had the old world releases. My contact from Cubicle 7 Games said that they're sending both the old world and laundry releases, but I haven't gotten any email about something shipping out or anything like that, so I don't know. And I'm trying to touch base to see, did something go out? Because I wouldn't mind doing a video that compared the old world and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And from my understanding, the 5th edition of Wifrip is still going to be completely compatible, backward compatible with 4th edition. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I see Kathy Evans is with us tonight. But as far as the complexities, I would say I think it's the success ranks which throw people. Where, you know, it's, oh, well, it's the difference between what your skill is and what you rolled and things like that. And then I think momentum is something else that might throw people. But I would definitely love to dive into the old world, because I do like that setting a ton. And if it's the same kind of snarkiness that we find in Wifrip with maybe a lighter weight rule system, because my understanding is it is a dice pool system with 10-sided dice. And I think your standard success number is a 7. So if you have a 2 in something, you roll 2 10-sided dice, and if either one of those is a 7, then it is a success. If I remember correctly, I think that was what I had heard when I had talked to Dom at Gen Con. Anywho, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, fingers crossed. All right, moving right along, this quarter is going to see the release of Shadowrun 6th World Core Rulebook City Edition Hong Kong. Say that 5 times fast. It is from Catalyst Game Labs, and here is the latest. Risk is the reward. The odds are against you. Of course they are. The other side is more people, more firepower, more money, more everything. What they don't have is you, your brains, your guts, and your willingness to put everything on the line. Your job is to make that count. Shadowrun 6th World is the current edition of one of the most popular role-playing games of all time. In 2080, the world is controlled by massive megacorps that draw on a wealth of technology and magic to keep the world under their heels. But there are some people who resist, who refuse to sell out, and who survive by living in the margins and developing the skills that make them indispensable. They are Shadowrunners, and they're waiting for you to join their ranks. Be an elf shaman or an orc street samurai, a dwarf rigger, or any of thousands of other possibilities. Find your unique expertise and use it to take the wild chances that can keep you alive, that will give you that one last chance at freedom so you can survive until the next one. City Edition Hong Kong contains the full updated rules content of Shadowrun 6th World, along with bonus pages of art, fiction, contacts, plot hooks, and other content to get players started in Hong Kong. The 300 and more page, I guess I should say over 300 page hardcover. I don't have an exact page count for whatever reason. I think it's around 350-ish. Well, the hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99. It is supposed to arrive in the second quarter. So it's supposed to arrive this quarter. I do not have an exact date yet. So we shall see. So I think this is what, the 5th? Is it the 5th city book? 4th city book? They have Seattle. They've got Berlin. I thought there were a couple of more. I'm not all that up on more modern Shadowrun. I do like to, throw out news pieces from time to time from Catalyst Game Labs. And I do tend to kind of steer towards the Shadowrun stuff. So very nice. And now keep in mind, this is not a new edition. This is just a new city book, new artwork. Chris Lenrand says they'd like a Call of Cthulhu versus Trail of Cthulhu video. They went to their game store and saw both. So there's supposed to be the new edition of Trail of Cthulhu. I'm not sure if that's what you saw. I would hope that would be what you saw. Supposedly, Pelgrane Press was interested in me doing a review of the new edition. So we shall see. I don't know. So what was it that I did a review for them not too long ago? Trying to remember. I thought it was, well, I guess it was probably over a year ago, maybe. I know I've reviewed Fall of Delta Green. Is it the Borealis? I forget the exact title to it. I think that may have been the last one that I had reviewed. So yes, Kevin R. Smith points out Trail of Cthulhu is based on the gumshoe system. You don't roll to get clues. So you have to make resource management calls as well as sanity calculations if there's a clue. Yes. And the gumshoe system is essentially, if it's been a while since I took a peek at something from Gumshoe, and my gosh, I review so many different games and game systems. It's hard to keep them straight. But if I remember correctly, if you have a particular specialty, like a skill, that the clue falls under, you automatically get the clue. So there are no instances of everybody fails their library use rolls and then everybody pushes their library use rolls. This is in the latest edition of Call of Cthulhu. And they all miss those. So it's like, well, you're SOL as far as that clue goes. Right. So J-Man points out you can spend more points because your skills give you pools of points that you can spend towards things with those skills. Right. So if you had forensics as an example, and you were investigating a crime scene, there would be clues you would automatically get because you have forensics. Now, maybe you've got forensics 2. That gives you 2 points you could spend from your pool on forensic clues. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But like combat, stuff like that, yeah, you still have die rolls. It's just the information gathering does not, it's not as luck-based, I guess we will say. Roger Perdome is with us once again. Good to see you, Roger. Dragonix Books has released the Monster Manual Expanded for Dungeons & Dragons 5.5. It is available in PDF. Here's what I know. The Monster Manual Expanded 5.5e is a massive 325-page bestiary designed to seamlessly supplement the 2024 edition of the Monster Manual. Armed with a staggering 498 creature stat blocks, this book arms dungeon masters with unparalleled options and flexibility for designing unforgettable adventures. What's inside for newcomers? Endless encounters. Populate your dungeons with a massive variety of new creatures and NPCs built directly from the core Monster Manual foundation. Classic nostalgia. Discover unique variants that evoke the classic feel of older D&D editions, perfect for surprising your veteran players. And art authentically crafted by professional artists. Every piece of art featured is the hand-drawn work of human creators. Their team includes world-class illustrators whose portfolios include renowned publishers such as Wizards of the Coast and Paizo Inc. So what's new for returning fans? Well, it's got the 2024 D&D rules update. Your favorite stat blocks have been completely overhauled to perfectly match the new mechanics, streamlined formats, and stylistic standards of the 2024 Monster Manual. Upgraded lore and a few new pieces of artwork. Enjoy vastly improved immersive flavor text alongside a sprinkle of fresh new artwork, including a new cover. Right now, the 325-page PDF is available for the sale price of $29.99. Now, that is for the first week of availability on DriveThruRPG, and this has been out for a few days. I do want to mention that it will go back to its regular price of $34.99 once that week is over. And I will mention this is today's giveaway. So get ready. I will have a trivia question that I will be asking prior to our brief intermission. And the first person with the correct answer will receive a copy of the Monster Manual Expanded 5.5e in PDF. Stay tuned. All right. Final news piece now available in print and PDF from Bat in the Attic, singular games is Into the Majestic Fantasy Realms, the Northern Marches. Here's the scoop. What if your players could shape a world that remembers them? From the frostbitten ruins of the wild north to the magical storms of the Ring Islands, the Northern Marches await. The Northern Marches expands Rob Connolly's Black Marsh setting into new lands. The cold Tasia and icy rivers of the wild north, the wilderness frontier of the Southlands, the conquered Viking realm of Raza, and the westernmost duchy of the Grand Kingdom, Northport. Each region of the Northern Marches brims with ancient ruins, forgotten magic, and factions fighting to shape the future. The Ring Islands, the Forsaken Desert, the Forest of Les Jagatov, the Great Glacier, the Black Marshes, and the underwater realms of the Gray Sea all await adventurers willing to brave their dangers and plunge into their mysteries. Together, the Northern Marches span over 100,000 square miles, divided across four 12-inch by 18-inch maps, overlaid with a numbered hex grid for easy reference. Its factions, characters, histories, ruins, layers, settlements, and cultures form a living world sandbox designed for fantasy campaigns using a variety of role-playing games. This is a campaign region built for referees. A world of maps, locales, rumors, encounters, travel, settlements, NPCs, and consequences, ready for players to explore, change, and make their mark upon the world. It is a world that remembers those who stood, fought, and changed destiny. Inside, you'll find a guidebook to the Northern Marches, an editable markdown document of the guidebook to the Northern Marches, licensed for reuse under Common Creative, a 6-part reference PDF summarizing encounters, travel, merchant adventures, and a blank map outline for notes, 4 12 by 18 referee maps of the Northern Marches, 4 12 by 18 player maps of the Northern Marches, 2 combined player and referee maps of the Northern Marches, as well as a layered PDF of the map of, well, you guessed it, the Northern Marches, a layered SVG file of the map of the Northern Marches, as well as 5 town and city maps for referees, and another set for players. The 424-page hardcover with PDF can be had over at DriveThruRPG for $49.99. If you want to just score the PDF, you can do so for $39.99. Yes, that is the pricing. I don't know if it's a mistake somehow, but that was the pricing when I put this news piece together. Hardcover with PDF, $44.99. Just the PDF, $39.99. Something seems off. But I got to say, this looks pretty impressive. I thought this looked pretty cool. So very, very nice. And the Tabletop Scholar is with us with a $6.99 Canadian Super Chat. Saying, thanks for doing Top Secret. What's my favorite edition and which box set would I recommend as the definitive starting point? We will discuss, because the reality is I am not all that well versed in Top Secret SI. I understand the premise. I understand some of the differences between the original Top Secret and SI, but I never owned SI. So I am going to hopefully be able to pick some folks' brains out there in chat so that they can share some info about the SI edition of Top Secret. And I see we've got Keith McGrath is with us in chat. I think I've said hello to everybody so far. Hopefully I have. All right, so that was the news tonight. Of course, I mentioned DriveThruRPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of most of those sales as a commission. And all those commissions really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you're watching live, taking part in chat, toss out some little hearts and flowers and 100% or whatever you'd like. Show a little engagement that way if you could. And if you happen to be watching on a mobile device, got some hype points you might want to sprinkle a few on if you got a little bit handy there. If not, fine, whatever. And of course, if you dig the Gaming Gang, if you like the outlet, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, got a couple of other ways that you can help support the outlet. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Shaken, not stirred. Wrong, right? Isn't it supposed to be? I thought it's stirred, not shaken, is how Bond takes his martinis. At least I want to say that was in the Ian Fleming books. Because shaking it bruises the gin, because it's not vodka, it's a gin martini. So, anyway, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? And then, of course, you can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. And on all of our live shows, I like to give a tip of the cap to all our Patreon members. So, a big thank you to Ben Oldthwaite, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Talzek, Peaceful Porcupine, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Lutman, Gustavo Cavalho, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Faradrift, Peace Stracklich, The Tabletop Scholar, Dan Webb, Tessie Trekkie, Agile Monk, The Madman, and Flint Fireforge. Thank you very, very much. So Keith McGrath says it's opposite in the novels. Right, that's what I was going to say. It's one in the movies, it's something else in the novels. And I remember as a kid, man, I was probably 10, maybe 11 when I started reading the Ian Fleming Bond novels. So, Kuhn Fossa says, impossible lag today, but saw Top Secret. They have SI and think it was great. Didn't they try a Kickstarter a while ago? We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, so taking a peek, I have 0 drop frames. So any sort of lag going on is sadly a product of YouTube. It is not going on my end. Anyway, so tonight's topic is, yes, another forgotten tabletop role-playing game favorite. We're going to talk about 1980s Top Secret from TSR in just a few moments. First, wanted to mention, got a bunch of stuff from Freely Publishing, and sadly enough, I did not put it here on the table. Maybe during our brief intermission, I'll grab it and then I'll show it to you. So I have the new the Soderman books for the One Ring, as well as Lord of the Rings role playing. I've got the replicant asset. No, I should say it's the Blade Runner asset pack. Got that. The fine folks over at Pulp Hummock Press sent me, get ready for this. This is the slipcase set with all 3 volumes of the Forbidden North, which I think clocks in altogether at about 1,600 pages. So I have reviewed the first 2 volumes. I will be reviewing the third very shortly. I'm almost ready to review it, but it is off the top of my head, I think it's the largest of the 3 books by a little bit. So it is quite a lot to make your way through. so there is that. Let's see what else. Like I said, supposedly I've got Cubicle 7 game stuff coming. Frontier Scum just got an email that has shipped, the new edition of that. And yes, once again, I've got like duplicates of like everything. So I did not have an opportunity to post it over on Discord, but I am going to give our Discord members first shot at picking up some of these duplicates. I mean, I've got 2 additional copies of the Pirate Board starter set. 2. I've got an additional Blade Runner, Replicant Rebellion. I've got an additional, still in shrink. Well, I mean, the books aren't in shrink because they don't come in shrink. But I also have the Coriolis Flowers of Elgarob. I got a spare copy of that. I don't know why they keep doing that. I have no idea. But yeah, it was weird. I just saw the same thing. I think it was yesterday that I saw the email for Frontier Scum. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, oh, your Free League Publishing order shipped. I'm like, oh, okay. And then about 2 hours later, it's like, oh, your Free League Publishing order shipped. And I look and it's a different tracking number. I'm like, and I have let the people know from the marketing company that Free League Publishing uses. And they're like, well, just, fill out our form. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because the thing is, it's like, I guarantee you, if I didn't fill out the form, then nothing would show up. Kevin R. Smith says, according to Wikipedia, the shaken part probably comes from a completely different cocktail that Bond invents in Casino Royale and calls a special martini, even though it doesn't have vermouth. Nah. Well, I see Ravenclaw is with us in chat tonight. Welcome. So Keith McGrath asks, are you kickstarting a new Symborum? No, I am not. I don't kickstart anything. Well, I don't have funds to kickstart stuff. So no, I am afraid I am not. Of course, will I share news about it? Yeah. But no, I won't be kickstarting it. That didn't start yet, has it? Because I haven't heard anything from Free League about it. I take that back. I heard from Free League about it, but I don't post news pieces normally for crowdfunding projects that are like months away. Because it's sort of like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Right? It's sort of like, oh, hey, are you excited? Are you excited for this? Because you can't do anything at all. So Keith said it kicked off yesterday. Wow, that's weird because is it through Free League or is it through the original creators? I would think it is Free League. So anyway, Tesco Love has popped on in asking if we're talking about the Vesper Martini from Casino Royale. We are talking about it from the novel, not from the Daniel Craig version. I thought that was great. I liked Daniel Craig as Bond. He's like my second favorite Bond. Yes. All right. So tonight we are going to be talking about a forgotten tabletop role-playing game favorite, Top Secret, released in 1980 from TSR. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Yes, you've seen it in magazines, you've read it in the newspapers. In fact, perhaps you've even seen the owner's picture. Ralph Williams, the owner of Bayshore Chrysler Plymouth, 345 El Camino Real in the city of San Bruno. You notice the big bald-headed son of a bitch? The man that came to San Francisco to offer them more for the dollar they spend. The man that came to San Francisco to rape each and every citizen in the whole San Francisco Bay Area. You don't believe it? Listen to me. I don't lie. Take a fucking car like this. A 1966 Ford, a Country Squire 9-passenger station wagon. Don't worry about the equipment. Imagine all the fun you can have in the back. And while you're doing it, imagine all the money that bald-headed prick Ralph Williams is going to be making on the car he's trying to fuck you out of. Yes, the man that'll take every dime out of the San Francisco Bay Area and spend it on prostitutes, booze, and, of course, crap tables in the city of Las Vegas. I'm sure you've heard about it. So remember this. If you'd like to get fucked and hooked real hard before you buy a car, come down here. Let Ralph Williams do it. Why not? Why not somebody else? Remember, our address is 345 El Camino Real in the city of San Bruno. But if you come from Marin County, East Bay Area, or San Jose, your money spends just as well as anybody else's. And when this bald-headed son of a bitch gets hold of you, you will spend money. Talking about payments, 5 years payments of $100 a month. You can't get even. So shop before you buy. Bayshore Chrysler Plymouth.
Wilkins Instant Coffee soothes the headaches of life.
I don't have any headaches.
Care for cream and sugar?
Nobody is safe from the man from Hong Kong.
Listen, there's a Chinese cop in town. He's beginning to annoy me. Yeah, I think he should meet with a slight accident.
Jimmy Wong Yu is the man from Hong Kong. A furious arsenal of martial arts. With his sights set on smashing organized crime.
In my country, Caroline, we have a sport. We take the giant praying mantis, put him in the wooden cage, and make him fight for his life with his own kind. I thought you would enjoy such a sport.
You and Jack Wilton in a wooden cage. He's a very dangerous man.
George Lazenby is Jack Wilton. Gunrunner, dope peddler, ruthless czar of international evil.
I've never met a Chinese yet that didn't have a yellow streak.
East meets West in a head-on clash with no holds barred. Golden Harvest, who made Bruce Lee a box office smash, have joined with Australia's action specialists to produce a death-defying spectacle that staggers the senses. The man from Hong Kong knows no rules. Everyone he runs across is never quite the same again.
I understand the gunman is dead. How did that happen?
I killed him.
Really? Well, in that case, you deserve a cigar.
Thank you. I don't smoke.
Tell me, Inspector, do you often take white girls to bed?
Only on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
This is nice.
What did you expect? Acupuncture?
So do yourself a favor and answer a few questions.
省点劲儿吧，可你妈来陪我，我也不会告诉你。
Yeah, and I love you too.
This is Australia, mate, not 55 days at Peking.
Hey,
Don't give me any shit.
Provoke him at your peril.
I want that lunatic stopped.
Nothing stands in his way. For long. Nobody's safe. From the man from Hong Kong.
The man from Hong Kong is loving the ladies. Loving the ladies almost as much as that bald son of a bitch, Ralph Williams. Yeah, I love those. They're pretty. I think there's 3 of them out there, but the third video quality is awful. I mean, it's like 240p. I mean, it's really, really bad. So, sadly, I have never shared the third one, but I have shared the first 2 that I ran across. They are pretty damn funny. All right, Dan, I see Dan Murray is with us tonight in chat. Welcome. And yes, that was George Lazenby. And I got to say, I'm hoping that, who was it that just had mentioned? Oh, it was Ravenclaw saying Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond. I hope that was sarcasm, because in my opinion, the Pierce Brosnan films were some of the worst. All-time favorite Bond. Okay, here I'll go down real quick. All-time favorite Bond to me is Connery. And then it would be Daniel Craig. And then it would go to, get ready, George Lazenby. Because I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is excellent. I really, really do. And Diana Rigg being in it. Yeah, that helps with the quality there. And then I would say Timothy Dalton, then Pierce Brosnan, and then Roger Moore. And I don't have anything against Roger Moore. It's just at that point in time, the Bond movies had gotten silly. So I like my Bond movies to be a little more realistic. I really do. Really like them to be a little more realistic. Anyway. So, I forgot to give you the trivia question. I remembered. So, here's the trivia question. This is gonna be a quick one. So, Retired on Bike says Lazenby's their favorite. It's a good roughie. I guess he was kind of a dickhead. And there we go. Grouchy Letty says Timothy Dalton was the best Prince Baron. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. But yeah, the Roger Moore, and then of course now we know Roger Moore was gay, so you got to kind of look at Bond a little bit differently in those movies. No, I don't have an issue with his sexuality. I'm just saying, it's kind of like a little more tongue in cheek, but. Keith Hulu asked, did Roger Moore ever blink? I've seen 2 of his Bond films, and I swear to God, he didn't blink once throughout. JD Sewell says On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a great Bond movie. It is. It really is. A lot of people have taken a pass on it because they're like, this guy was only Bond once. Anyway. So here's your trivia question. In the late 1960s, there was a series of movies. I think there's 2 off the top of my head. And they featured James Coburn as a James Bond-like figure. What is that character's first and last name? First person with The correct answer is going to win a copy of the Monster Manual Expanded 5.5e in PDF. JD Sewell says, Moore is just ridiculous in everything. Wild geese. There you go. Vladimir. Velimir. Why do I always want to say Vladimir. Velimir Cleaver is correct. They have the correct answer there. It is Derek Flint. In Like Flint, which was a takeoff of In Like Flynn. J-Man says, everyone forgets David Niven in Casino Royale. In the original Casino Royale, you could say there are a lot of actors who are James Bond. I never cared for that movie. Kind of... kind of goofy. It's one of those movies where it's almost like they weren't exactly sure what sort of movie they wanted to make. Did they want to make it a comedy? Did they want to make it kind of a more serious espionage film? So Velimir says, I thought it was either going to be Flint or Matt Helm. Wasn't, it was, now off the top of my head, I can't even think of his name. Dean Martin. I was going to say, Dean Martin was Matt Helm, wasn't he? In fact, Sharon Tate, I think her last film was a Matt Helm movie. Well, I know the last film she was in was with Dean Martin, and it was kind of like a spy film. So there were actually a couple of Bond television movies back in the early 1960s. So there's a Casino Royale. I think might have been like a Playhouse 90 or something like that. So yeah, funny enough, Sean Connery is not actually the first actor to portray James Bond. Kind of wild. Kind of crazy. All right. So the reason why we're talking about all this is because it's time for another edition of Forgotten Tabletop Role-Playing Game Favorites. And this time around, we're talking about 1980s Top Secrets from TSR. Oh, and Velimir, I think you won something last week as well. So same thing. Shoot me an email. I will get you a link for your copy. And if for some reason I'm misremembering it, all you got to do, send an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com from your Gmail account that's affiliated with your YouTube. Easy enough. Yes, Crudgy Lenny says, Top Secret, the role-playing game, not the movie. And not the slew of romance novels that have Top Secret somehow in their name. Kevin R. Smith says, wasn't the original Casino Royale a case of the filmmakers not having the rights to the James Bond character, but having the rights to the Casino Royale book? It was something like that. It was something along those lines. It was kind of like, okay. So anyway, I remember Top Secret. I had Top Secret. And I remember that it was our buddy Scott Weagle, who from time to time pops into chat here, and another of our friends, Tim Phelan, who I'm still pals with on Facebook, who still games a little bit. And I want to say both of them ran Top Secret. I don't recall running Top Secret And if I did, maybe I ran it once. Maybe. And I remember this was part of our, the Gamers Guild, our high school group that met twice a week after school. We got 2 periods to utilize one of the classrooms. And, sometimes we would start playing something like a role-playing game in the club. And then, after the 2 periods were over, so that was like hour, 20 minutes-ish. And we would go and we would maybe take the game to one of the like fast food places that were around the school, because the high school I went to was massive. We had over 5,000 students. So, yeah. So some discussion of there's some intermittent pausing going on with the video. Yeah, once again, it's a YouTube thing. We've seen this every once in a while, that there's freezes and things like that. So I won't worry until I see like the chat has dropped. Because if the chat has dropped, no. All right. So Roger Prudhomme says, when we were tired of fighting goblins or shambling mounds, there was nothing like a 2 or 3 shot of Top Secret. Agile Monk says they've got Top Secret SI. Oh, I think Agile Monk's saying they've got Top Secret and Top Secret SI, and the game in between, Espionage, along with another one called Mission. I don't remember Mission. So Chris Leonard's talking about Covert Ops from DWD Studios. Not something I'm really familiar with. Keith Lucas says, 5,000 students. Your yearbook must have looked like Lord of the Rings box set. I actually, funny enough, I took 2 years of print shop. We were the ones who made the yearbooks. Well, I think we were the only school in Chicago that actually produced our own yearbook. Photography, all of it, all done in-house. So, Wishlight says, I'm just going to blame SoCal internet relays. Grouchy Lenny says, Boot Hill and Gangbusters, love those. So, we were talking a little bit about, Laconic Lane's popping in saying, I'm in the pocket of Big Kobold. So Laconic Lane disagrees with my review of the Northlands World Book from Cobalt Press, which I just shared today. I gave it an 8 out of 10, which, funny enough, if you follow my reviews of the various different setting books that Cobalt Press has released that I've reviewed, it's actually the lowest score out of any of them. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. I know I'm kind of stealing the thunder from it, but Laconic Lane disliked it. Well, they're saying that my 8 is way too generous a review score, but I'm looking at it differently, no doubt, than Laconic Lane. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of funny. I'm in the pocket of Big Kobold. Yeah, yep. You see me taking my change and sorting it by quarters and nickels and dimes. Yeah, I'm rich now. Anyway, yes. 8 out of 10 because of typos. So many typos. I did mention the typos. More than I recall seeing in any Cobalt Press release. Hey, well, let's get back to our topic. So, TSR's Top Secret. So, the first Top Secret was quite different, in my understanding, and Agile Monk and others in chat can certainly attest to this or prove me wrong. But Top Secret actually was a serious take on espionage role playing. Now, that's not to say that, you couldn't do, a little wackier stuff like the Avengers or, some of the, Roger Moore kind of James Bond. But I remember that there was a section that listed like real life espionage organizations. And weirdly enough, it wasn't only espionage, it was like terrorist organizations. Like Black Friday was on there. And yeah, there you go. Agile Monk, get smart. I was just about to say that too. I was going to say get smart. Missed it by that much. But with Top Secret SI was more of the highly cinematic, action-packed A-team sort of like covert operations, espionage sort of stuff. More of the like Mission Impossible sort of thing. Whereas the original Top Secret was percentile based. And weirdly enough, here's something else I remember. And it's kind of odd how, you remember weird things about games. I also remember that if you needed to roll a 20-sided die, you weren't actually rolling a 20-sided die. You rolled a 10-sided die, and then you rolled a second 10-sided die. And if you rolled 1 to 5, you didn't add anything to the first die. And if you rolled 6 to 10, you add 10 to the first die. That's how you got 1 to 20. And I thought it was weird because I was like, I could have swore, we're talking 1980, 20-sided dice are available. I would think 20-sided dice were just as available as a 10-sided die. Is it because the Top Secret box only had 10-sided dice? Did it have a couple of 10-sided dice? Because I seem to recall those were the only rolls were 10-siders, percentile dice, and 1 to 20. But I really liked the fact that it was serious. It was a serious espionage role-playing game. And when you were creating your character, you had, I think it was 6 attributes, but they weren't, your strength, dexterity, blah, blah, blah. So they weren't the D&D attributes. Damn, I got something in my eye. Ah! It's a poison dart. Oh, jeez. Anyway, if I remember right, you rolled percentile dice and that was your score. But then, because you were player characters, if you rolled really bad, you got like a bonus you could add. So if you rolled, I think it was less than 50, you got to add 25 to that. So, yeah, I remember that. And then there were some derived attributes as well, where you had to add, and then if I remember right, there was one, I think it was fitness, where you actually added like 3 of the attributes together. I think it determined like your movement rate or something along those lines. Now, I don't believe the like core booklet for the first Top Secret box set was more than 70 pages, 80 pages maybe. But there was hit location, combat was super deadly. That was something that in Top Secret SI, I believe, lightened up, that it became more like hit point sort of, oh, well, you know, you're not going to get a one-shot kill. Whereas in Top Secret, a player character could get taken out by a headshot or something like that. So I remember that. And I remember for the most part, it was percentile dice, but I don't remember there being skills. I thought, if I remember, I thought there were like specialties and you rolled randomly for your specialty. And then they had different departments that you would be part of. So we didn't have like I said, I don't remember there being skills. So it was more kind of old school sort of, well, if you're trying to do something like trying to walk a tightrope or something like that, you would use, I think coordination was one of the attributes that they had. But Kun Fossa says they're looking at their set right now. And let's see, we've got Delaney Alyssa, I think that's what the name says, is joining us as, wow, Top Secret, that's a blast from the past, from the way past of RPGs. Yes. Chris Leonard's talking about Top Secret New World Order. That was from the new TSR. Wasn't that the well, okay. That was the non-Ernie Gygax TSR. And I seem to recall we started talking a little bit about the controversy, and it turned out, the Ernie Gygax controversy. And I thought it had applied to Top Secret, but as Kevin R. Smith had pointed out just a few weeks ago, talking about how they, that was not the case, that Top Secret was from another company that had taken on the TSR name. And I think they even were doing the logo. And then they forgot to renew their copyright. So I think Ernie Gygax and his group bought it. And they were like licensing it back to this other company. And then when Ernie Gygax said some less than savory things, the other company was like, shit, and they changed their name. So yes, that is the New World Order. I know nothing about it. I think I saw a review one time. Off the top of my head, I thought they said it was pretty janky. But like I said, I have not seen it. But yes, I had heard that, yes, Top Secret New World Order, it's Solarian is the company's name now. Yes, Kevin R. Smith says, yep, TSR 2, not new TSR. Yeah, come on, let's fight over this name that nobody really gives a shit about anymore. I'm sorry, get off track here a little bit, but any publisher who is out there who is only focused on the nostalgia of our hobby is going to have a rough go of it. Now, you know me. I love the OSR. I promote a lot of old school Renaissance stuff. But if you're putting all your eggs in a basket because you want to get the name TSR, I don't know. I don't think that's a great idea. Chris Leonard says it has this has good reviews. Oh, so Chris Leonard, okay, Chris, we're talking Top Secret here. You don't need to be searching drive-through RPG for espionage games. Spycraft. Wasn't that Crafty Games? And then, yeah, because I liked Crafty Games. They did Fantasy Craft. I thought that was really nicely done. I liked their line artwork a lot. But I thought they did a second edition of Spycraft, and then they were going to do a third edition of Spycraft. And then, to be honest, I don't even know if the company's really around anymore, because they went heavily into Mistborn, and they had a Mistborn role-playing game, and then they had the Mistborn, I think they had 1 or 2 board games. Well, I know they had at least one. And then the licensing deal ended. So that's why there's the Cosmere role-playing game now from Brotherwise Games, and not Crafty Games. And it was funny because the folks over at Crafty Games were one of the first interviews I did at Gen Con. At the first Gen Con that Elliot and I covered. So, Kunfasa says evolution equal OSR greater than new SR greater than TSR. Kevin R. Smith says the original TSR has been out of business for over 25 years. If you're under 35, it probably holds no nostalgia value for you. No, I wouldn't think so. I would think the only way that gamers 35 and under, maybe even 40 and under, would have any sort of glint of nostalgia for TSR would only be if they're familiar with the history of Dungeons and Dragons. Probably about it. Anyway, so with Top Secret, it was, I don't want to say it was an overly complex system, but it certainly wasn't a rules light system. And then I do recall that the book was kind of in sections. So the first section kind of discussed like your character creation, the rules of the game. And of course, this is a role-playing game from 1980. So you're not looking at 50 pages devoted to character creation. You're looking at like 3 or 4 as far as that one, maybe a little bit more, maybe 5. But it's also incorporating the rules of the game as well. And then it had optional rules. And one of the optional rules was actually, I want to say, even more lethal combat. So somebody out there who has Top Secret and who probably recalls the mechanics of Top Secret, didn't it utilize almost like the Morrow Project as far as this little bug's flying right around my face? Yeah, I've got gnats, I've got bugs. Didn't it utilize kind of a value, like a penetration value or something like that for firearms? Where different firearms based on the caliber and muzzle velocity did more damage? I could have swore it had something like that. So, and I remember some of the rules were like for the character advancement, because you didn't have levels. There was character advancement, but that was also like in the kind of like in the optional rules section. Because when the first Top Secret came out, this is right about the period when like Boot Hill came out. And as I mentioned before, the first edition of Boot Hill is more a combat simulator than anything. It's not really a role-playing game. Yeah, sure, it's marketed as a role-playing game. And it does have that old school, box set vibe to it where it's like, okay, here's your rules, bang. Or let's get right to the point. And a lot of role-playing games in the late 70s, early 80s were like that. That you just kind of got right into the nitty-gritty as far as the game itself. But the role-playing aspects of some of the rules tended to be kind of light because, of course, role-playing games evolved from miniatures games and war games. So they did kind of tend to skew a little more towards like war games and miniatures games as opposed to what you would see in role-playing game rules now. But I seem to recall, yeah, like the character advancement stuff was like optional rules. I think the other thing that really strikes me about the original Top Secret was stuff that came out in Dragon Magazine. There was stuff that came out in Dragon Magazine that were essentially must-owns. That if you were running Top Secret, you needed to have those issues. And I seem to recall there were a couple of issues off the top of my head. They probably came out 81, 82-ish. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Scott Weigel was our main Top Secret game master. And I remember he always had those issues with. And then there were some issues that had adventures and stuff like that in Dragon Magazine. But I do seem to recall that there were like some, I think one of them might have been like a skill system. I don't know. I don't recall. I liked Top Secret. I thought Top Secret was pretty cool. And I think the main reason I enjoyed Top Secret is for the same reason that I enjoy like the Connery James Bond movies and the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, as opposed to, and like I said, I don't hate the Roger Moore movies. I'll watch a Roger Moore Bond movie if it comes on. I'll be like, oh, okay. But I know I'm just going to sit there and kind of giggle through most of it, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I take this kind of seriously. But I think that's why I really enjoyed Top Secret. Now, I saw that Agile Monk just shared a $5 super chat. Says, the original Top Secret and Top Secret Second Edition were better than Top Secret SI for hardcore role-playing gamers. That SI had easier mechanics. Like I said, I thought essentially the focus of Top Secret SI was for faster, more cinematic play. And to make it more of a kind of role-playing game feel to the proceedings as opposed to more of a simulation sort of thing. So as an example, I don't think in the first Top Secret that there was any sort of like fictional organization that the player characters belong to. I don't think there's any sort of fictional organization that they're up against. Like I know somebody had mentioned Chaos and Control. Good old Get Smart. Hey, speaking of Get Smart real quick, I think I've mentioned this before. I actually had a couple of Get Smart novels from the 60s when I was about 9-10 years old. It's like I had a paperback of, I think it was 5 novelizations from the Twilight Zone that was actually published while the Twilight Zone was on. And I think the same was true for the Get Smart. And they were like, 150-page novels, but I got them for like a quarter. You used the bookstore or whatever. And yeah, those used bookstores that you had the kind of moldy smell to them. I kind of miss those. Don't miss the smell though. DBS, didn't Dragon have a feature called the Rasmussen Files? Yes, because the creator of Top Secret was Merle Rasmussen. I think they did. I think that was kind of an ongoing feature. I don't think it was in every issue. Weird thing though, I thought Top Secret SI was the second edition of Top Secret. Or was the second edition of Top Secret simply a second print run of Top Secret? Because I know there was the Top Secret box set I had. It's funny. Many of you, I'm sure, remember back in the day when we were all in high school and you would pick up a role-playing game that you weren't going to run, but one of your friends was going to run. So you'd go pick it up so that you had the rules there so you could check out the game before you played it. Too bad we don't see that too often anymore. So there was some discussion of Spycraft. Somebody said that they thought that Spycraft had been a collectible card game. Kevin R. Smith says they don't think Crafty Games recovered from Fantasy Craft being a massive disappointment. I would disagree with you on that because I think Crafty Games did really well with the Mistborn license. And then I'll be honest, I think, not knowing any of the inside dope on this, I think that the gents over at Crafty Games thought that they would be able to renew the license with Brandon Sanderson for the Mistborn role-playing game. And I would take a guess that Brandon Sanderson probably figured, hey, you know what? I bet I can make a lot more money licensing this out to somebody else. Although, the reality is Brotherwise Games, up until the Cosmere, I've said it before, I don't read Brandon Sanderson's stuff. I've tried, just couldn't get into Mistborn. But anyway, Brotherwise Games was not a role-playing game company prior to the Cosmere role-playing game. That was their first RPG. I have not had an opportunity to take a peek at it. Sammy reviewed, I think, the 2 core books for it. So Mac Daddy's with us talking about 8 pages of projectile weapons rules. Wonder if that's Top Secret SI. Michael Berry says, like the mechanics of SI, but the whole web and Orion did nothing for us. I think those were the fictional organizations. Kept the old Cold War East versus West feel of the game. Yeah, because if you think about it, wasn't SI like 87? Isn't that when it came out? And if I remember correctly, I think Top Secret SI was supported with physical releases far better than Top Secret ever was. I don't think it did that great. There was some discussion of the Naked Bomb. Yes, I remember the Naked Bomb, and then I seem to recall being disappointed that nobody was naked in it. Or there wasn't as much nakedness as I thought would be in it. Agile Monk said the Umbrella had a hand-to-hand weapon value of 6 in Top Secret. Think Avengers. Agile Monk said SI was a whole new baby and better cover. I like the old Top Secret cover. Oh, I was going to say, as far as the second edition of Top Secret, it may have been a second print run, because I remember the box set I had a black border. But then because I've kind of considered maybe picking up Top Secret. but it's pretty expensive. And usually I'll see the one that's got the red border. So Agile Monk says 1980 first edition, 81 second edition. Okay. I wonder what changed between the two editions. Because I know sometimes TSR called another print run another edition and really didn't change anything. So Grouchy Lenny says, like the Naked Lunch movie, false advertising. Well, I would have a better idea of the Naked Lunch going in, knowing what I'm getting into. So Keith McGrath says Spycraft first edition was third edition open game license. Is D20 modern different? I think. I was going to say, I think D20 and 3E are kind of the same, aren't they? I don't know. I can tell you about Call of Cthulhu releases from that point in time. So Edge Monk says Merle Rasmussen did a bunch of cleanup and clarifications that had become errata. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Very, very nice. Sadly, Top Secret is not available as a print on demand or even as PDF, as far as I understand. Chris Langren asks if does anybody know why Wizards of the Coast can't re-release classic Top Secret? I don't know if they can't re-release it or that they just haven't, which is weird because we do see the Dungeons and Dragons TSR stuff trickling out, although it's a bit better than that nowadays over on like Drive-Through RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild. But what was it that just got a PDF? Maybe even a print on demand. Was it the Frank Minsker rules? Was that it? That just, I think it was like last week. There was some discussion in chat about it. So, all right. Keith McGrath says they're looking it up right now. Pretty much the same, what they thought. Gretchen Lenny says, did Wizards of the Coast get all of TSR property rights or just D&D and Gamma World? I thought they got it all. I thought they even got the board games. So, yeah. And if they can't be bothered to reprint the Avalon Hill stuff, good luck seeing them reprint the TSR board games. Because for the most part, those were clunkers. But, I mean, there were a few that were okay, but mainly clunkers. W. Ford says, nothing for Top Secret, Star Frontiers, or Gangbusters. As Chris Leonard pointed out, there's a gentleman who has released, I think it's called Gangbusters BX. Sadly, his wife passed away prior to the Philadelphia area gaming expo. And because Ellie and I were scheduled to play in a game of it, because Chris Lengren's always talking about how I need to, review Gangbusters BX. And I was going to talk to Mark Hunt as Chris Leonard's bringing up, but his wife passed away, so he canceled. Then I was kind of like, well, I'm not going to reach out to him now. So I see Michael Hislop is with us. Says Top Secret New World Order is on Drive-Through RPG, but it's not related to Top. Well, okay. I can't say anything about it. I don't know about it, but it is not like a third edition of Top Secret. So I don't know. They must have shelled out some money to Wizards of the Coast or made some sort of agreement. Harvey Chuckle says, I could have sworn they got Star Frontiers off of Drive-Thru RPG, even though it was a while back. Yeah, you know what? I could have swore I thought I saw it at one point too. I don't have any real nostalgia for Star Frontiers. I have more nostalgia for Gangbusters than I do Star Frontiers. And I remember owning Star Frontiers box set, some of the adventure modules that came out. I never ran it. Just like I owned Gangbusters and didn't run that either. But Agile Monk says they like the original top secret black box artwork the best. Yeah, there was a few Jeff D pieces I remember. In fact, I used the Emma Peel art on the post for tonight's show. Where I was like, hey, check out tonight's show. Crutchy Lane says, I doubt Hasbro would let Wizards of the Coast reprint stuff just for nostalgia. It would have to be promising profit-wise. Oh, yeah, we know that. But Chris Lundgren says, Paizo's website early on had Star Frontiers in PDF. Back in the day, they got it that way. Huh. Maybe that was that back when like Paizo was more kind of like a storefront for other stuff, not only their own products. So Stevie asked, is that the one with the photos and the passports? Yes, and I think it's the Walther PPK that's on that. I'm using that as the thumbnail for tonight's show. So, all right. So that is it for this time out. Trying to think, should we do a deep dive into, well, not super deep dive, but we could dive into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on tomorrow's show. Because there isn't really any topic that's jumping out at me right now. I know there's always something that people are whining about in the hobby, but, you know, I try to avoid that kind of stuff. But trying to think of a topic for tomorrow night. And I would think maybe doing a look inside maybe the starter set for Wifrip might be fun. Or maybe the core rulebook or something, and just kind of discuss the game itself a little bit. Semper Buffo says, don't you want to wait for the new edition? Supposedly the new edition isn't going to be like radically different. So I don't know. I could say, hey, you know, I could wait until I get the starter set for the old world, and we can kind of talk about the differences between the two. But who knows when I'm going to get that. So, Agile Monk says, remember, TSR got raided by the FBI because of Top Secret. Yeah. It's weird how there's been a handful of role-playing game companies, publishers, that have gotten raided by the feds for some of the most oddball reasons. So RPGs that flopped could be fun. Yeah, but weirdly enough, I don't know a lot about role-playing games that flopped. So, W4 says, will all role-playing games go the crowdfunding route? Could be a topic. Yeah, but sadly, I've got a one-word answer to that. No, that won't. Now, that's not to say that we won't see more role-playing games going towards crowdfunding, but, there are still some publishers out there who look down their noses at crowdfunding, that they feel that, see, like Chris Lundgren just said, Buck Rogers flopped. Yeah, but I never owned Buck Rogers. I know very peripheral things about the Buck Rogers role-playing game. Just like I know was it called the Indiana Jones, or was it Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that? That was from TSR that bombed as well. So, but I didn't own that either. I've never actually taken a look at it. DB says TSR's Conan versus the other Conans. Didn't own it. I don't know. So sadly, I try to stick the things that I understand, I know about, or at least I recall. I don't want to do a lot of nostalgia. So like, this is our second Forgotten Favorites. And that will be it for the month. I won't do another Forgotten Favorites until June rolls around. Let's see. Grouchy Lenny says, Delta Green with Supernatural stripped out could be a great secret agent game. Discuss. Actually, what you could easily do is use basic role-playing, because kind of what Delta Green is, it's built off of that. But Bamboozled Great Crowd says, late to the party, but Agents of Swing is not bad. Oh, that's cool. Keith McGrath asks if I cover any solo games. I share news for some solo games. I'm not necessarily a big solo game fan, especially like the solo role-playing games that are kind of more like journaling games. But I got nothing against them. If you enjoy it, or anybody else enjoys them, by all means, that's fantastic. Myself, just not my bag of tricks. So I'll figure out something for a topic for tomorrow night. But it'll just be something, just hanging out, talking with folks in chat. There you go. Chris Lundgren coming up with something that might work. Core rules versus starter sets. Could do that. W. Forge asked if anybody ever played MERPs. I had it. So Kevin R. Smith says, apparently Merle Rasmussen started work on Top Secret in college, and it was published before he started working for TSR full time. He might have held on to the rights instead of signing them over. That's a possibility. I don't know. It's not necessarily a topic that I'm dying to learn more about. Although I am interested, don't get me wrong, but it's usually I have so many other things going on. Just like real quick, I will wrap up in a sec. I've been reworking the Knights and Magic miniatures rules to clean them up. I mean, presentation wise. So I have a much better file available for the PDF and as far as the print on demand over at Lulu. So I've been working on that, and it is a pain in the ass. But I figured I want to get it done. I highly doubt I will ever do a new edition of Knights and Magic like I thought I might, 12, 13 years ago. But anyway. So that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watch live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news, as well as tackling a topic related to our hobby. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It truly is appreciated. Most certainly. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Because, and if you ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications. Because if you do, YouTube is supposed to let you know not only when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It's also supposed to inform you when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Call of Cthulhu, Clockwork, and Claws, 2 scenarios for Pulp Cthulhu from Chaosium Inc. Yes. All right, everybody. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you for watching. And until I see you next time, we certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.